Welcome back to the Fight Over Flight podcast. Our guest today is a starting outfielder for the University of Tennessee softball team. She's a New Jersey native, and I'm excited for you to hear her story. She's going to be talking about the life of a collegiate athlete, as well as suffering from what would most say a career-ending injury, and how she was able to bounce back, readapt her goals, go to the college of her dreams, and be a phenomenal athlete and phenomenal softball player. I know you're going to love her story. Tune in and let us know what you think. God bless. All right, welcome back to the Fight Over Flight podcast. And it is an honor and a pleasure to have our guest with us today, Amanda Ayala. If you don't know who she is and you don't follow me on Instagram, because all I do is post about her, she's one of my favorite people in the world.
That's true. I feel like I know you already from following her.
You just met her. Yeah, so she is one of my favorite people in the whole world, and I'm so glad to have you today.
Thank you. I'm happy to be here.
Yes, welcome. So we'll dive right in. Just tell, for the people that don't know who you are, what do you do now? What do you do for fun? Give us in the life of Amanda.
Okay. Like Rob said, I'm Amanda. I am currently a junior in college. I go to the University of Tennessee, where I play softball. I'm from Bloomfield, New Jersey, which is like 20 minutes from Hoboken. Mm-hmm. And for fun, over the summer, I'm definitely a beach bum. I'm always there with my dad. We're surfing, out, laying out, just having a good time. Anything outdoors I love to do. Wintertime, I'm a snowboarder. I'm excited for winter break next week to start so I can come back and just hit the slopes with him. Family and friends, my relationships are really important to me, so definitely spending time with those people is something I love to do. And
yeah, she is. When you talk about outdoors,
yeah,
like snowboard, surf, she could skate, she could do anything, dude. Like, it's crazy.
It's just the natural talent. You just pick up any sport.
It's just fun to be outside. Yeah. I mean, I know when I was younger, it was like, the sun's going down, let's go, come inside. I'm like, oh, come on.
Yep, she's definitely not the newer generation coming out.
Are you technically Generation Z?
Yeah, she's 20. 20.
Yeah, I'm turning 21, so I'm 1999, so I'm like right there. Okay. I try and say I'm a 90s baby. When all those tweets come out with like everybody's super proud of being a 90s baby, I'm like, well, technically I'm there, but I don't know.
That's how I feel about the 80s. I'm 88, so I'm the cusp of it. Yeah. I'm a 90s kid, though.
Right, exactly. Yeah, it's so cool because she is athlete like to the core, dude.
Yeah.
And now being at the University of Tennessee, so what's that like? Right now it's the holidays, it's the day after Thanksgiving. How's it like being over there?
It's fun for sure. Right now softball is in our off season pretty much. We don't really start playing until February. So in the fall, that's our grind time. We're practicing every single day. We have off once a week, lifting, running, all that stuff, putting in a few hours a day, just going after it and just trying to become the best we can be every day. It's definitely a job for sure, but at the end of the day, it's something that's 100% worth it. I'd rather be doing what I do than working a 10-hour shift day and getting paid for it. Definitely.
I'm a little bit ignorant to the college sports realm, so maybe you can kind of fill me in, but there's a lot of attention on you guys just in general for the sport, right?
Yeah, I know that most schools are big on football and basketball, but Tennessee, one of the reasons I chose to go there is because their fan base is something you wouldn't even believe. Like,
really?
They are so passionate about their sports there, and softball, for one, is treated as highly as football there, and that's something you never see at colleges. Like, schools are football schools, that's like it. Tennessee, you hear about softball as much or more than football, and that's something that's really awesome, especially considering the fact that is a pro softball league, but it's nowhere near as high as major leagues. So college, for me at least, is probably the highest I'll go. So I want to be looked at as a pro, and Tennessee's definitely the school where they do that for you.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and she's being like modest. She hasn't mentioned it. She never really does. But ever since she's been there, always ranked top 10 in the country. At some point they were ranked 2 in the country. Like, we're talking about all the universities in the country.
This might be a little dramatic for views and stuff, but who are the rivals? Like, what's the rivalry of Tennessee?
You got Alabama, Florida. Those are 2 definitely huge ones. Those are always great games when we verse each other. So those are 2 big ones for sure. Yeah.
I'm talking about like the top teams in the country, which is awesome. Especially coming from New Jersey to go down there. So because it's so intense, and like you said that it's like a job. What would you tell the the athlete now, whether it's male or female, that's in high school that wants to go away but scared to go away because they know they're not going to be with their family or their friends, what advice would you give them?
See, I was definitely someone, because growing up I was always on the road playing, so I think starting at a young age doing that, it helped me be more willing to adjust to being away from home. But I think that what ends up happening is everyone, for sure, I'm convinced, finds out where they need to be in time. It's like there's a lot of pressure when you're growing up and you see your friends committing here and committing there, or just deciding where they want to go, even if they don't play a sport.
Right.
Everyone goes to college, or for the most part, you want to go to college. And
right.
whether you're an athlete or not, it can be scary going away from home for the first time. But I think when you end up where you're supposed to be, your friends end up where you're in that same place, and you end up developing family away from home in different ways, to whether it's a club or a sport or something you're just interested in. You end up finding people that make it feel like home away from home, and you eventually adjust and you end up okay there.
You touched on it a little bit with saying that Tennessee holds softball to a higher caliber. What were some of the other deciding factors of you moving to that school specifically?
Okay, I definitely wanted to get away from the cold. That was definitely one. Yeah, I love New Jersey. I love the whole 4 seasons, but the cold is just something that I'm not friends with me. But
there's no point for it after January.
Yeah, so going down south was something that interested me, just weather-wise. And like I said, I wanted to go to a place that I felt like I was home when I wasn't home. And when I went to Tennessee, they always talk about when you go to different colleges, there's this it factor, when you're there, and no one can ever explain it to you what it is. That's the funny thing. It's like, oh, what is it? It's like, oh, you just know. And it's just like, but what do you mean? Like, how can you just know?
You can kind of visualize yourself there.
Exactly. I think what that feeling for me, I think it's in for everybody. I think that's why they have a hard time explaining what it is. But for me, at least, the way I can best describe it is once I left, I instantly wanted to go back. And, when I left, I felt like I was missing something when I wasn't there. So that's how I would describe that it factor for me. I didn't get that when I went to some other places, and that's how I knew that Tennessee was where I needed to go.
I love that.
Yeah, and with also, because this is a Christian-based podcast, she is a Christian, which is amazing and awesome.
Yes, baptized last April.
That's right.
Congratulations.
Yeah, thank you.
But they're also down south. You know how the South is. It's like God and family are the first two things that are important.
For sure.
And they have
and grits.
Yeah. Right. That's like a close
That's
third.
funny.
Yeah. And her going, did that play a factor with the coaches and the team atmosphere? Because when you went down for your recruitments, you had to meet with teammates and people who were going to be there. And you went to different school recruitments. She was recruited, again, she's modest. She was recruited by over 20 top
number
Division
one
I
fan,
schools.
right?
Yeah, seriously.
Yeah, trust me, like top schools because I've been around some elite athletes,
right,
and people who've even gone pro, and I always say that I feel bad that they don't have a Major League Baseball like Major League Baseball does,
right,
because she is in the physical sense and in the mental sense more superior than people that I know that are professionals.
Wow.
So pro athletes, and I've always looked at her that way. So So that's a big thing.
Yeah.
And they're grounded in faith. Was that also a deciding factor for you?
Yeah. I mean, at the time, I know that I grew up in a household where my parents kind of left it up to choice. It wasn't one of those things where you had to go to church every Sunday or you had to read the Bible every day, which is something I really like thinking on it now, because it kind of gave my sister and I that freedom of choice. And, it was one of those things where if we were going to develop a relationship with God, it was because we wanted to seek him rather than it being forced upon us. And I think that's more valuable than if it's just thrown on you. I feel like I know a couple of people who it was thrown on them and then they grow to resent him just because it was always so forced. So going down south to where they definitely do put faith first, it was definitely different for me, and it was something that sparked my interest for sure. And it didn't take long, and it's not just from the coaches either. My first experience going to church there was a set of teammates encouraged me to go with them. And the church that we go to down there, it's actually funny, this is the shirt I'm wearing.
Nice.
They call it The Walk.
Shouts The Walk.
Yeah, it's a place where literally it's all college students.
Oh, wow.
So they have a service in the morning, which is for everyone else. And then, we could go if we wanted to, but at night it's literally just dedicated to college students. So and you'd be surprised how packed this room gets.
I'm sure.
They just finished moving. Last year it was at a smaller place, and now we're at an even bigger area, and they fill up like you wouldn't believe. And just the atmosphere there is something just, it gives me chills thinking about it, really.
Yeah, because you have a bunch of people there that are there because they want to be, like, they actually are passionate about it.
Exactly. No parents are there to tell you to go. And it's Sunday nights at like 8. So it's one of those things where, you could choose to, my favorite TV show comes on at 8 tonight, you know, things like that. But, just the amount of people that I'm excited every week to go there. That's the best way to start my week. And so, yeah, definitely the whole faith aspect is something else that for sure gravitated me towards there.
Yeah, it's amazing.
Yeah. Let's go back a little bit and talk about just your journey into sports in general. When was, like, the first time that you felt like, all right, I think softball is going to be my sport. That's what I'm going to be. That's what I'm best at.
All right. Well, yeah, so I played a bunch of different sports growing up. I started baseball with T-ball when I was, 5? Is that usually when you do it, about there?
Right.
Baseball first. Then at one point I was playing baseball and softball at the same time. It was when I was like 8. I think it was 8 when I tried out for my first travel softball team. And it's funny, I would go from playing a softball tournament and then I'd come for a baseball game in the same day and I'd have to deal with the whole ball size difference, the base difference. Like it was funny.
Right.
But yeah, so I played that. Once I got a little older, I started basketball. Played soccer also. Gave up soccer for softball because I was already playing travel ball, so the schedules really did not go well together.
Oh, wow.
And then, so I played basketball and softball pretty much all through elementary school, middle school, and high school. And then I want to say it was 7th/8th grade when I finally got onto my last travel ball team, which is considered a showcase team where we play in tournaments all across the country in front of college coaches. So you go from playing closer to home where the objective is to win the tournament to kind of, obviously you still want to win, but it's an area and atmosphere where you get to play in front of schools that you might want to go to where they can assess your ability, see what you do, when you do well, see how you do when you don't do well, and things like that.
Right.
So it wasn't until 8th grade is when I kind of got looked at for the first time, and everyone would always talk about, I see like this potential in you, like you can do big things. And like he said before, I'm more on the humble side. So like it wasn't until then that I kind of was like, okay, like everybody's saying this to me, but now a coach is actually reaching out. Like, okay, maybe I actually could, maybe I do see what they see. So 8th grade was when softball like really started to get even more serious for me. And then I'd say, I committed to Tennessee sophomore year of high school.
Really?
Yeah, it was.
Wow.
Yeah. So at that point, I knew that like softball was definitely it. Like I was still playing basketball, but it was more fun at that point just to be able to play on a team with my friends from high school because they weren't on teams with me when I played softball. So it was just a way to do something else so that my mind wasn't always on softball. It's good to get a little mix in of different things here and there. So that definitely kept it fun. It kept me in shape in the wintertime when things are slower for softball. So. But yeah, by high school, I pretty much knew that softball was going to be my way to go.
Yeah, it's funny. She says sophomore year. I remember when you made the like little highlight reel. So there's like a highlight reel, and because you want to post, because we the social media, you post it like to announce what school you going to, and it was like 20 schools that were interested in her, and it's like boom, 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 and there was a question mark. And then she was wearing her, like it stopped for a second, and then boom, it showed her wearing her Tennessee gear. But people couldn't believe it. Like I couldn't believe it.
I wish I knew anything by sophomore year of high school, let alone what college I was going to go to.
Right. Okay, I know. It's crazy, man. And it's a good way to segue into like the deep parts of now this episode, because sophomore year in high school, you did have all these people, all these schools wanting you to play, top schools in the country. You were your trajectory in life was going up and up and up. And I witnessed it firsthand. And now talk about the most traumatic experience, of your life and how, just explain it. I'll let you explain it. But what happened after your sophomore year, after you already verbally committed to Tennessee and you knew what you wanted in your life?
Yeah, so at that time, it'll be important for later. But so I said I committed to Tennessee, and like you said, it was a verbal commitment. So you don't get to sign your national letter of intent until senior year. So what that means is that you're basically giving your school like, okay, I want to go here. I'm stopping my recruiting process from everyone else. But it really is like a verbal thing. So at that point, a coach could later on say, you know what, you hope that doesn't happen to you, but we found other talent, or money isn't there. I'm sorry, but or sometimes what happens is coaches leave, a new coach comes in and they didn't recruit you, so it's like sorry,
right,
type thing. And vice versa, an athlete could say, you know what, I don't think Tennessee's for me anymore. you know,
It's not.
I'm going
It's
to
not
open my
official yet.
exactly.
Right.
So junior year of high school, I was coming off of an Achilles strain that I suffered from in the fall playing softball. I slid into home and then, you know, just messed it up there. And then I finally came back, was able to start running again, and it was January. Very beginning of January. I was training at a facility for the upcoming season. I was doing a drill similar to suicides. And I had 4. I remember I was on my last one, and my last sprint back, there was just a really loud pop.
Ow.
And I fell. But I can be clumsy sometimes. So I didn't think it was me. I just thought maybe I tripped trying to stop. So I tried to get up, and then I realized I couldn't. And I was kind of like, that's weird. But, you know, I mean, no one was there to everyone thought I was fine. So that's when I started to call for help. My mom was there. She was getting ready to pick me up to go home. And at the end, they compared it to, there was other people working out, and they said it sounded like somebody dropped a weight on the ground. Like, it was just that loud.
Man.
Like, people heard it from across the gym that I was in.
Wow.
So there was a physical therapy office upstairs, so people came over to me. At first, they just thought maybe I tore a muscle because, you know, that's the most common thing that happens with running. So they're talking to me and trying to comfort me, but having gone through injuries before, it didn't feel like a torn muscle. I kind of landed in almost a fetal position with my legs, and when I tried to move my leg, it felt like there was pain like deep inside of my thigh. So, I mean, I at this point had never suffered a broken bone, so I wasn't sure if that's what that felt like, but I just knew something wasn't right. Everyone was trying to calm me down, and eventually
You're still in the facility at this
I was
point.
there for a good amount of time. They called EMTs who came. Eventually, they put me on a stretcher, got me into an ambulance, made my way over to the hospital, immediate x-rays. Still couldn't really do anything about my leg at the time, in the same position I was in when I fell. And I just remember seeing the x-ray on the screen, and I was like, that's my leg.
Damn.
Like, what? Femur completely in 2 pieces. Like, the hardest bone to break in your body.
Strongest bone in your body.
Completely in half, like 2 pieces. And at that point, I learned later on that it was like a mechanism that your body does, but my bones went from just being separated to kind of overlapped.
Right.
So, sorry.
Yeah.
So I noticed that my bones were overlapped, and then I just heard the doctor say, all right, you know, surgery tomorrow morning. And I was just like, wait, what?
Wow. Yeah, they have to work quickly.
I was literally just working out. What do you mean I have to go to surgery? Like, it was crazy. So since my bones were like this, basically, overnight, the reason they had to do something they call traction. Mm-hmm. So what they did was they attached some contraption to my knee with a string or rope or whatever it is, and they hung weights from the other side of the bed.
Oh, man.
And the point of the weights was to bring my bones back to this neutral position so that they could eventually, you know, go through the surgery. And I wanna say it was 17 or like 19 pounds that they had to hang over the bed for my leg to start going back to its normal position, which is crazy within itself.
Right.
So then next morning I was one of the first people into surgery, and then I woke up and it was just on from there.
Yep.
So you look at your X-ray, and you see how severed it is. What's the first thing that goes through your mind?
I honestly was in shock. I think there weren't many thoughts in my head. It was just like, what? Like, that's something you see on TV. Like,
right.
If I showed you the picture of this, you would just be like, everyone that sees it, their jaw is just, what? Wow. No way. That's impossible. I know for sure my mom and my dad who were in the hospital had all the, is she ever going to play again? Can she walk again? Like, what's going to happen? Type thing. What's gonna happen with school? Are they gonna honor, you know, her scholarship still, even though she's injured? Or if she does come back but not 100%, are they gonna honor that and things like that? So, it's funny because I get that question a lot, and I feel like I always disappoint people with my answer because it's not like I genuinely didn't. I don't know what it is, but I don't know if I didn't process it the way most people normally do or what. If I'm weird, but I was just in shock, and then to me it was just like, okay, like, what's next type thing.
Yeah, well, usually when somebody goes through something that severe, it takes a long time for it to really set in. Like, this is actually happening. This is reality. So it's not a disappointing answer. It's kind of common. You see something that's life altering, and you're just like, I don't even know what to make of it yet. Let me just not go there in my head.
Right.
Yeah.
And when you're talking about your femur snapping, like your femur breaking half, this is not an Achilles.
Yeah.
You're not, you didn't pull a hamstring. I mean, this is serious.
Right.
Serious
This is
injury.
serious for somebody that's not an athlete.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Now, and it's such a freak accident. You don't just snap your
Oh,
femur
Right.
when you're running and stopping, So I know when she was going through it, I was like, man, hopefully she doesn't have like something wrong with her bones.
Yeah,
Like something,
they ran tests.
everything.
Everyone,
Right.
they
A ton of
tried to
tests
see
on
if my
her.
vitamin D levels were fine. All my numbers came back fine. People were always asking me, all right, can you go run us through it again? Like, I don't know if they were expecting my story to change or what, but no, everyone, they heard it happen and then in that way, and they were just all in shock. But
yeah, it's like snap your femur, you got to get hit by a car.
yeah,
Right,
and even then sometimes it doesn't
doesn't
happen.
happen.
Like, it's crazy.
Right.
Yeah, so and it's funny because she's not being with this part, like being modest about this. I remember talking to her and saying like, I remember speaking at, I think it was your signing, a couple years later, and in my mind I would have been freaking out.
Yeah.
I snapped my femur. Am I gonna walk? Am I gonna play? What's gonna go on? Blah, blah, blah. But she was just calm, cool, collected. She was like, all right, what's next? Like, how am I gonna beat this?
Right. So it snapped right into like overcoming mode, kind of.
Right into the fight mode. Like
Right
there
into
was
fight
no
mode.
there was no hesitation, and I'm like, that is crazy that a 16-year-old
Right.
can just say, all right, now I gotta crush physical therapy.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like usually you get like to this self-pity, but from that, so now after the injury, there had to have been moments, through physical therapy, that you questioned, like, would I ever be the same, or would I be able to play college softball? Like, what was your dark moments of that?
Okay, so I know you're right. There are definitely moments where it was, why me? Like, why right now? I think those, so the bone, you just kind of have to wait. The bones heal. What was the hardest to rehab was, so they had to insert a rod down, which I still have. So there's a rod and then 2 screws. So to get that in, they had to go through my hip.
Oh, wow.
So that was the hardest part, getting the muscles there to kind of get back together and work back together. I walked with a horrible limp for a while. And so there was that. And I guess just being so used to being at my top level all the time, getting knocked down and having to go to PT 3-4 times a week for 2 hours at a time. And, just simple tasks that you would think would be the easiest thing to do, I couldn't do anymore.
Right.
I was talking to my mom earlier today. I couldn't ride a bike in the beginning, which is weird. Like
Well, it makes sense.
No, yeah. But like, so there's like the stationary bike. So I was home for, let's say, I want to say it was like 2 or 3 weeks until the swelling went down before I started PT. And one of the first things he had me practice doing was on the stationary bike. So I was pedaling and then pedaling back, and it was halfway. So
Okay.
I couldn't make a full rotation.
Okay.
So, and that was while my leg was still, so my bone was still broken. So I was able to go around halfway. And just little things like that. I'm just like, come on, like this is so simple. Like, why can't I do it? So things like that definitely I struggled with, but at the same time, I don't know, something just within me was just kind of like, I didn't allow myself to stay in those moments for long.
Let's touch on that, because that's vital. So obviously there's medical stuff, physical training and stuff that you had to go through, but what were some of, like, I guess the mantras is the word, that you would keep telling yourself to kind of get you through those dark places, times when you're hurting really bad physically? What were some of the things you were telling yourself kind of?
Okay. I know you guys call it fight or flight. One thing that I kind of would keep saying to myself is, okay, you can either break down or break through type thing. And that for me was just something that I always said to myself, because, like you said, you can be sorry for yourself, and then you can find yourself stuck in this position for a really long time. But I follow a lot of motivational pages on Instagram and Twitter, and another thing I always see is that you've made it through every bad day you've had in your life so far. And that's another thing that I think about all the time. And it was one of those things where, like, they told me, they were able to piece my leg back together. So why can't I take what they did and just, piece my life back together in a sense like that? They created, the physical therapy is there for a reason. I know that there's people out there who have had much worse injuries than I've had, and they've been able to come back stronger. So
you were trusting the process big time. It's like, if I do what they're telling me I need to, I'll make it through this.
Exactly. And
Yeah.
I definitely, I know that, I was in probably the best shape of my life beforehand. And I just used that as motivation. I want to get back to that, if not better.
Right.
And maybe it's a competitor that's in me. But I definitely use that to fuel me forward, for sure.
Now with that, because that, to me, I know that is a very, very thin line. It's not like I'm super positive and super negative. There's a thin line between when you get hit with a trauma, especially a sports injury, where it's like, okay, how do I get better? And like spiral up mentality versus self-pity, then, pain meds, addiction, and then just spiraling down to where you see athletes that have injuries all the time that you look at them years later and their life is a mess. And it is a thin line. So for you, what do you think now, the listener, whether they're in high school, college, professional, they get this crazy injury? What do you think keeps them on the right side of the line? Like, what roadblocks should they avoid doing? Like, mentally, should they avoid, the self-pity and that stuff? Like, what would you say to your younger self or to the person going through it? Like, what roadblocks you need to avoid?
Well, one thing that definitely helped me get through everything was my support system. From family and friends, I had people from the moment I was in the hospital to even now that have just stayed by my side and have always shown me the bright side of things when I was feeling down. From my physical therapist, who I would end up talking to. He became my best friend. I was there all the time.
Wow.
And it went from, he realized how important not only the physical side of it was, but the mental side of it. If I was having a bad day where I didn't want to be there, and he could tell from the second I walked through the door, if I just wasn't having it that day, like I was tired, okay, we're just going to slam this medicine ball into the wall until you feel better, and then there were days when he knew he needed to push me where, it was one of those things. I remember specifically, there was a day where he had me doing hurdles, and the way he separated a set of hurdles, I looked at him and I was like, dude, I'm going to fall. Like, this is going to happen. And he's like, yeah, I do, but I'm making you do this because I need you to know that if you do fall, you're fine. So, from him to my family and friends, I had people who around me always pushed me and made me feel comfortable and allowed me. They gave me some time, certain times here and there, to be sad, but they knew when that was enough. They like he said, it's impossible to just be that extra positive person all the time.
Well, that's a common thread we've been hearing, especially even today, in the last couple episodes we've done, is there's always a space to really just indulge in like the sadness or the darkness that you're going through and understand that it passes.
Exactly.
Yeah, for sure.
Like accepting.
I'm just kind of putting all that together. I never really thought about that.
No, I took a sports psychology class last year, and that definitely, I don't remember the exact length or the exact stages, but that whole grief and being sad is a stage of the healing process, and it's unhealthy if you don't allow yourself to go through it. So it's definitely one of those natural occurrences that happen, and you just kind of have to accept it. That's where you accept what's happened to you, and then you go from there.
Right.
I'd encourage people to have a good support system for sure, because it's definitely, things are hard to do by yourself,
Right.
Even other things, not just injuries, when you go through something family-wise or friend-wise or even internally, one of the habits that a lot of people have in our generation is we bottle things inside and we don't talk about it.
You push everybody
Exactly.
away.
You isolate yourself, and it isn't until you talk to, even if it's one person, that you're able to get yourself out of whatever it is you're going through. So I think just being able to trust other people, and it doesn't have to be a lot. You can have a small circle if that small circle, is there for you. That's definitely one thing for sure. Don't push people away. That's definitely a thing that someone could do, and that could actually hinder their process and getting better and getting out of what's going on.
Right.
When they're struggling.
Love that. And that's what we talk. That's like one of the mantras of the podcast is whatever storm you're going through, if you have God, if you have family that care about you or friends that care about you, and then being able to having the strength to speak to them, because being open and being honest and being vulnerable is a strength. It's not a weakness.
Exactly.
And,
Right.
especially speaking like athletes or just anyone, we don't want to talk. And when we're going through things and we just want to bottle it up, and no one, and you could have a smile on your face and people think everything is
Fine.
okay. And they can say, oh, this person's not going through anything. This person lives an amazing life, but really is struggling. So having that courage and that strength to confide in people and to surround yourself by people who truly love you, I think that's very, very important. And I'm glad you said that, because I'm starting to feel it more and more, right? It seems like the interviews of the people who have gone through something extremely traumatic, they all say the same things. Like having that support system is critical.
Yeah. So because of the support system that you had, can we talk about some of those people what were their qualities that they had in common? How were they kind of helping support you?
Okay. They were definitely all very patient. They all knew that they needed to go with my pace. It wasn't a thing where they could rush me, but at the same time, they didn't let me completely stop. Every day if I was making a baby step, that was better than going backwards. There were days some step is better than no step type thing. And that was something across the boards that I know that everybody was helping me with. They all had tremendous belief in me. And that's another thing, because when the days where I struggled and I thought, oh, maybe like I can't do it, it was their belief in me that pushed me. You know what? These people see something that I don't see right now. I once saw it, I can see it again type thing, you know? That's definitely something that helps me even to this day. I'm back to normal, better than ever. And, I'm living out my dream in college, and there's days where I wake up and I'm so tired, this is day 15. Like, I'm just exhausted. My body hurts. I don't want to do it. And, I think back to those people who have that belief in me, and it drives me forward. So that's something that helped me a lot for sure. They were all very persistent with me. There's tough love. Exactly. The physical trainer. For sure. They all genuinely cared about me, and awesome. That I could see that, and that helped me.
Yeah. I want to talk about going back to, all right, now you're in physical therapy. This whole thing is you're starting your healing process. Okay. What happens next? Where do you go from there, as far as like how long were you in physical therapy? What kind of what happened with school,
Okay, yeah. So it was midterms when I was studying for midterms when it happened. Okay. And then I was out of school from February. I think I came back sometime in March. It was really a hassle just to think about like walking with crutches throughout the hallway and things like that. That was like the biggest thing. So I was out of school for a good amount of time, but they sent home instruction people to help me with my grades or classes so I could stay on top of my grades. I got schoolwork brought home to me. I still was able to complete assignments. I had friends who lived by me who could bring stuff to school for me. But yeah, so I was in PT from February all the way till the summer, pretty much. It was more frequent at first, and then I went from 3 to 4 times a week to twice a week. And then I was finally cleared to play in a tournament that I had in July, which is kind of crazy. It's like, what, six-ish months?
Yeah, like less,
and I just remember being so excited for that. But yeah, it was about 6 months of PT, just going at it as hard as I could. Every time I was there, I kind of just tried to let everything else disappear for those 2 hours so I could do what I had to do to just make even the smallest progress forward and just get back to what I love to do.
Right.
Were you nervous playing your first game or playing your first season again and getting back into it, because like, did it pop in your head like, oh, I can get injured again?
Well, one thing that Joe, who is my physical therapist, helped me realize was that there was a rod in my leg, and the bone was now healed completely surrounding it. It can't break again. That's the one thing that he said. He was made clear to me that my leg cannot break again. So, but one thing that he had me do is once I was able to pretty much do most of the normal mobility and stuff, he would take me out of our physical therapy place to a local field. And we would throw, we would catch, because he played baseball in college also. Oh, cool. So I'm sure it made him happy to be able to come back out a little bit. But we would throw, we would catch. He'd have me do diving drills outside. He'd have me slide outside just so that I could see for myself in a more of a controlled atmosphere and environment that I was going to be okay if I did make contact with someone or the ground or things like that. And that definitely made me feel comfortable. And then before he allowed me to play with my team, he made me join sort of a local league where I was able to play but not at the same level, just so I could ease into it also. And that definitely helped me too, because I even noticed in those moments I was a little hesitant, but by the time I was able to fully play with my team again, it was more exciting than anything.
Wow. That's strategy. Right?
Yeah. No, he was smart
We're
about
talking
it.
about like, and it's crazy that she was able to, to adopt that. And then now that was your junior year. So then you go into your senior year, and now are you more excited because you missed an entire year of softball?
So many goals in high school to, break. I wanted to break records, and I was on a good pace in high school to, one of the big things is to get 100 hits. And I also missed the beginning of like my sophomore year because I actually broke a toe, but that doesn't count. It's fine. It's just a little stupid thing.
Trauma, yeah.
You'd be surprised though how much you need the toe, like your big toe.
The critical
Though. But I was on good pace to break different records at my school that I was excited for. So just coming back senior year, I was just like, okay, like what can I still get done? One of the big things is 100 hits in high school, and I was able to complete that, which was really exciting still, in 2.5 seasons to be able to do that, which sometimes takes people 4.
Right.
That was within itself. I was still stealing bases, doing all the things that, someone might have thought, oh, she's not going to be as fast anymore. I was still able to do those things. Senior year, I was just like, okay, this is the first season I'm with my friends. High school ball is so much fun. It's more relaxed than college ball or travel ball. And I just kind of wanted to finish high school having fun with my friends, be able to play. And then when it came to travel ball, just
crush
show
it.
Yeah.
and she went All-American. So
really?
Yeah, year after.
I did,
Wow. So obviously Tennessee was still interested.
Yes, they did. I remember in the hospital when I called them while I was there, and it was definitely one of the more nerve-wracking moments. I didn't know how they were going to respond. There's coaches out there who say, oh, you're injured. No, I'm sorry. But they completely supported me, and they told me that they had all the faith in the world that I was going to be fine and get back and better than I was before, and that they were 100% behind me. And I think that's another thing that helped me be able to get back to who I was with a clear mind. I didn't have this stress of I have to get to this level. If not, I'm not going to be able to play in college anymore. Like I didn't have any of that pressure on me. Just they said, no matter what happens, we have your back, and that's definitely something that helped me also. Yeah,
I can imagine like the load off your shoulders, hearing like, okay, this isn't going to determine my future necessarily.
And that's hard to find because usually it's next player up. Like you get hurt at whatever level it is, typically college and pros, next person up. It's unfortunate. We're here for you. We hope you get better, and we hope you have a great life. But we've moved on. But we have a right fielder from Texas, that didn't get hurt.
Right.
And that's so cool to have and for people to know that still that kind of foundation of being around the right people, because it could be it. And then what I like, though, I always thought about this, is that you have all these goals, and you could set this whether it's with sports or in life in general. We have all these goals we want to accomplish. We want to do this in 5 years, and this in 3 years, and be this, that. But then something happens, and then that completely alters your path, and you have to figure out, what do I do now? And it's a humbling experience, because you could have beaten that 100 hits as a sophomore. Like if you had 2 full seasons, you could have beaten it then. And then you could have crushed all the records at the Paul Catholic and this big. But it was a humbling experience. You said, okay, well, you're not going to beat these things now. But now what are you going to do? And you took advantage of it and said, well, I have a full season, and I'm going to be the best I could be this year. And look, you made All-American.
Yeah, I think that's important to highlight, because it's very easy to just kind of give up that hope in general across the board. But just thinking to yourself that you're even going to try and still do those things, it's a big accomplishment in itself. Like I'm not going to let this detour my goals.
Yep.
You know?
You just readjust them.
Yep.
Right.
You gotta switch
You
it
gotta
a little
readjust
bit.
them. Yeah.
Just readjust them and you keep crushing it. And also now, I know your mom sent it to me. I don't know, I think it was like 5 or 6 months ago. She was rated one of the top 10 softball players in the state of New Jersey for the entire decade.
Wow.
The entire decade.
Yeah.
So from
Thank
2010
you.
to 2019, she was rated top 10 softball. Well, you know how many softball players are in New Jersey just playing in 1 year?
Right.
You know, imagine in 10 years.
Wow.
Crazy, right?
Yeah, that's wild. It didn't really set you back.
Yeah.
Wow.
But it's what we talk about and the listeners need to hear.
Yeah.
We talk about this mindset shift because one thing I like, and I'm paraphrasing the quote, but your only true freedom in life is your perspective. Because
You have no
right?
idea how often I use that.
Yeah,
Like,
and it's so true.
everything that I wish I heard of this quote back then, because it's definitely one that would have helped me. It's something that helps me literally every day in every situation I'm in. It's that life is 10% what happens to you and 90% how you respond to it. And that's my biggest like philosophy in life right now. And it's so true, you know, like it's inevitable for things to happen to us.
Yeah.
You know, you're stupid, you're crazy if you think you're going to go through life and have nothing but good things, have nothing but good luck and all that, you know.
Right.
You know, one point or another, multiple points in your life, things are going to happen. And it's all about how you respond to it. You can take every negative and find some positive in it. And it's that positive alone that can help you get through it. And that's just, it's important.
Dropping value bombs, right? It is important. It's critical because he talks about this a lot. It's like two people that do a Spartan race, right? Like the men.
Oh yeah. So I have a coworker that her and her husband did the Spartan race, and
Yeah.
they were talking to somebody on the phone, and she put her husband on the phone, and the guy asked, you know, how was the Spartan race? He's like, it was horrible. There was fire and mud everywhere. You know, my back hurts. And then puts her on the phone. She's like, how's the Spartan race? Oh, it was amazing. There was fire everywhere. There was, it's just,
There was
So
mud
much
or getting dirty.
Yeah.
So, you know, your only true freedom is that perspective shift and saying, okay, I'm going to look at this and I'm going to try to find where I can be grateful and where I can excel in, what new goals I can set. And for people to find that, there's no age limit, as we can see now, because the people we talk to, we've spoken to someone in their 50s, and then we've spoken to someone, you know, we have friends in their 30s and in their 20s, and you're 20 and your perspective is there. So if you're 15, you can have that perspective. And if you're 72, like you can change your perspective in life. And that's something that we definitely want to have all the listeners know. There's not just one listener that can benefit from that. And it is a breath of fresh air, you know, to hear it, right? Like to
Big
hear
time.
from someone.
Yeah,
It
absolutely.
really is. It really is. Now, so with all of that, everything, you know, the podcast is Fight Over Flight, and we talk about that resiliency, the fighter spirit, that kind of warrior spirit. Take us, like, what do you want to tell the listeners, like, on how critical it is to fight? Because you fought, and you won. To us, you're a winner. And even though you're continuously winning every day and you're going through the motions of life, you're a winner and you're a fighter. So can you tell the listeners how important it is to fight in life and to not take flight? Because we talk about when you take flight, hiding in your room, being in isolation, becoming addicted to a substance, what you're doing is you're taking flight in life, and eventually it will catch up. So can you just tell them how important it is to fight through your struggles, fight through your storm, and not take flight on it?
Yeah, for sure. I feel like I keep throwing out these cliche quotes, but they help. They help.
Good.
I'm sure everybody's heard of, you know, the harder the battle, the sweeter the victory. And that's kind of the first thing I thought of when you just asked me that. Like I said before, it's inevitable to go through things. And maybe it's the competitor in me. Maybe it's just I'm wired differently. But I think that at least for me, when I accomplish something and I know that it wasn't handed to me or it wasn't easy, it just makes it feel so much better. You know, I'm so much more proud of myself for accomplishing whatever it is. And I think that for everyone, you know, I think they'll find so much more pride and happiness within themselves if they know that, you know, at the end of the day, we only have one life to live. you know, and you can choose that with every inconvenience, whether it's big or small, you run away and then later on live with regrets of I could have done this or I could have done that differently and I could be in a different place now.
Right.
You know, I'm 20, I'm super young, and there's things I have regrets already on, you know. If you keep living your life in a way that you run from everything or, you know, you isolate yourself and you do this or that, and you choose not to fight, then I feel like 50 years down the road, you're going to have so many regrets. And that's, to me, living with regret is one of my biggest fears. You know, I want to be able to say that I've done everything I could possibly do and I'm content with it. So for me, I think that if you choose to fight with everything every day, then at the end of the day, you're going to be content with how you lived your life.
That's awesome. That's powerful right there, right?
I feel like it's a quote. It's a 1 minute.
I know that's a 1 minute Instagram thing right there. It's like, hopefully it wasn't a minute and 5 seconds.
Yeah,
that's like a perfect minute. It's for me, it's inspiring to hear the guests and especially to have you on because I've seen firsthand, you know, since you were in 8th grade, you know, up till now being a junior in college, and your story's inspiring. You're extremely intellectual, and it's special, and that people need to see that. People need to hear this. People need to know that they're not alone. And whether it's a sports injury or not, any part of resiliency comes from that fight. And they're the people who optimize their lives. So it was just, it's such an honor to have you on here. And I wanted you on here months ago, but because of like the whole scheduling and being in Tennessee.
College, you know.
Yeah, college. You know,
Such an inconvenience.
Oh, man, right? Like they couldn't just let her out just for the episode. What is there anything that you want to maybe ask us if we didn't ask you, or anything that you'd like to let the listeners know before we end? Anything?
No, not that I can think
We
of.
covered it all?
No, yeah, I think
Cool.
so.
Cool. Where can we find you?
Yeah.
If people want to know more about you, want to follow your journey through sports.
I'm definitely on Instagram and Twitter. I don't know if can you edit like a name or something. Like
Yeah, we could put it there.
Okay.
You could tell them too,
Okay.
and then we'll put
Okay.
it. We'll put it
So
up there.
Instagram is.
Hold on, it's
wherever it is, right here. It's got to be right here now.
Okay,
It's Amanda Ayala, and so it's AmandaAyalaa. Username was already taken, so I had to add the extra
add the
A. It's
extra
not
A.
a typo, I promise. And then same thing for Twitter. I'm pretty sure I have the same name on Twitter. So.
cool, awesome. And your season starts when, so people can follow you?
Yeah, February. We go back in January. January is crazy part of the year.
Yep.
Super hard month. We're going at it very hard. But first weekend in February, we open up in Arizona, playing in a tournament at ASU.
How do you watch?
Yeah, so sometimes it's on ESPN. I mean, you can live stream it on like online. For the Fight Over Flight community, once the season starts, you're gonna get sick of it. Trust me. So you will know where to go.
We're gonna turn into a Tennessee fan page.
Yeah, you will know where to go if you follow our page or my personal page. Trust me, you'll know where to watch. And if you aren't a college fan, this is a great time to become a University of Tennessee fan.
Yeah, there we go. Go Vols.
Right, go Vols, baby.
Sorry, Rutgers.
Yeah. So it was a blessing. Thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you for having me.
You're the best. And everyone, like, subscribe, comment, let us know what you think. Let us know if you enjoyed the episode. And until next time.
Yeah.
God bless.
God bless, guys.